Council Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority regular meeting, December 11, 2017, to order. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Changes to the order of the agenda. I have one, and we're going to move item 5, which is council communications, ahead of public comment. That'll be 5. We'll move to 4. 4 will move to 5. Any other changes?
None from staff this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anybody in the dais? All right. Having now moved it, council communications and announcements. Council members, comments that we have, 5A and B. I have a couple. First, I want to recognize our Public Works Director, Jay Walter, who is going to be leaving us at the end of the year. And was it 3 years, Jay? 5, and time just flies. I was right on that. 5.5. I think in the last 5.5 years, we made a lot of progress in a lot of our infrastructure and planning, especially for our infrastructure improvements that we have to do. And I'm sure I speak for everybody on the council, as well as many of the citizens in town, thanking you for your hard work and diligence, everything in the city, and wish you nothing but the best in your next stop back in San Luis Obispo, I believe. Right? So anyway, thank you. Okay. I'm going to go first here. I'm going to usually ask for everyone else, but I'm going to go first. Tonight I have the responsibility to provide an update to my colleagues on the City Council and to members of the public regarding complaints that have been received about the conduct of several members of the City Council, which allege that the conduct in question violated the city's Code of Conduct and Ethics policy. While there is no requirement of law for cities to have such a policy, the San Carlos Council has, since 2004, sought to hold itself to a higher standard in the performance of our responsibilities as local elected officials through the creation, adoption, and adherence of our Code of Conduct and Ethics. The city takes all complaints regarding council conduct seriously, and Section 15 of the policy lays down the process by which complaints are reviewed. The public may view the City Council Code of Conduct and Ethics by visiting the city's website. A link to the policy is located on the mayor/city council / commission page, which can be accessed on the drop-down menu under the Departments tab of the city's homepage. The first series of complaints were received between November 14th and November 16th, 2017. I am in the process of conducting an initial review of these complaints to determine if a potential violation of the policy may have occurred, and if so, whether I would recommend to the council that we hire an outside representative to conduct a more formal investigation. I will provide a more detailed update on my review of these complaints to the City Council at our January 8th, 2018 meeting. This item will be agendized for the council and public to participate in if they so desire. Yesterday, December 10th, 2017, I received several new complaints. These complaints also allege that other council members violated the Code of Conduct and Ethics. After our selection of mayor and vice mayor later this evening, the appropriate individual, as identified in Section 15 of the policy, will need to conduct an initial review of these complaints. I would recommend that whoever ends up conducting the review take, out of fairness, approximately the same amount of time to carefully consider these complaints before determining if a potential violation of the policy may have occurred, and if so, whether that person would recommend to the council that we hire an outside representative to conduct a more formal investigation. I would also suggest a more detailed update on these complaints be presented to the City Council and public at our February 12th, 2018 meeting. This update should also be agendized for the council and public to participate in if they so desire. And this concludes my communications. Other folks want to communicate? Any communications? Anyone else? All right. I'm sorry, Cameron, go ahead.
I just had one update for my colleagues in the public, which is I I serve on the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, and last week we had an item on the agenda to appropriate an additional $3.87 million to the Holly 101 interchange project, and that passed unanimously. So that's additional funding that helps fill the hole in that project that was based on the increased cost of construction and some design work that needs to be done, as well as moving some utilities that were unknown until we started digging into the project. So I just wanted to recognize Jay, who's already been recognized tonight, for all of his work on that, and thank our city manager and the mayor for attending the meeting along with Jay last week.
Okay, thank you. So we have all the money now. We can start. We're going to start that project, what, 2018, Mr. Malpe?
That's correct.
Great. All right, the next item then, having moved it around, will be for public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters not on the posted agenda. I have a number of speaker cards. We have a 2-minute time limit, which I will set up. I beg your pardon, I skipped 5B. Staff comment, any staff comments in administrative business? I'm sorry.
On behalf of myself and the staff, we'd just like to wish the council and the community a happy and safe holiday season, and we'll see you all back here in 2018.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to number 4. I'll name have a couple of names in a row so that folks can queue up and be ready to go. The first one I have for items not on the posted agenda is Romaine Loprete, followed by Lorraine Lederer.
Hi.
Hello.
I attended the November 13th meeting. However, I was not able to stay. I was in the other room with no ventilation. It was very warm and stuffy, and after an hour and a half, I regretfully left and gave up my chance to speak. I did not have an opportunity to express my support for the gun store. However, I did watch the meeting on TV. I was appalled to see the behavior of Mark at the end of the meeting. I didn't care for the foul language, hell yes. I didn't care for the high-five handshake between Mark and Ron. I guess you were congratulating each other for your win, which was my loss. Your remarks about Matt at the end of the meeting were inappropriate and uncalled for. Mark, you said sometimes people can't contain themselves when someone disagrees with them. When you voted on the zoning ordinance, you voted yes. When you voted on the gun store moratorium, you voted hell yes. What was that you said about containing oneself? Matt brought up some good points, and I appreciate someone mentioning the possibility of lawsuits and the fact that the past moratoriums only delayed things. Maybe you disagree, but the public had a right to hear them. Your code of conduct says, when there's a difference of opinion, the goal is to disagree without being disagreeable and to avoid making personal attacks on one's colleagues, staff, members of the public, and others. Your attack on Matt was personal. Your hell yes and high-five handshake was extremely disrespectful towards me. It doesn't matter what my opinion is on a nail shop, a dollar store, or a gun store. The point is your behavior was unethical, according to your code of conduct and ethics policy. Thank you.
For your comments. Lorraine Lederer, followed by Maeve Noth.
I viewed the November 13th council meeting on video. I was curious to know what all the discussion was about. I haven't made up my mind firmly on either of the views, and I was really looking forward to hearing what comments were going to be made, specifically by the council. But what I found toward the end with the council's discussion period were 3 speeches, followed by Matt Grocott saying, I expected this to be a discussion. This is the discussion period. I was wondering on the email chain that was discoverable that Mark spoke with somebody about Equity Arms, that is another gun manufacturer or gun seller that's a private by appointment only. I was wondering how does that factor in, but that was not brought up in discussion. I was wondering what our liabilities are as a city. I was wondering how do we treat people in this city that come in honestly to open up a store or something, a retail, something that actually is brick and mortar. But also I understand the content of the store matters to people, and I understand that as well. It does to me as well. So I was really looking forward to the discussion, but I was cheated out of it. I was cheated out of it because 3 people had spoke before Matt, and that was Mark, Ron, and Cameron came with prepared speeches. You weren't prepared to discuss with each other anything. So I felt particularly cheated out of that. I don't think that was fair to the public, and I also feel that in looking at the email chain that was posted, available for all the public, that there were many ethics violations through one person in the Mark Olbert, who shared personal comments by constituents, hiding their name but sharing the content with friends in email.
Lorraine, could you wrap it up, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Joking about constituents, choking about their ideas. I just wanted to say I just expect more from this council, and I hope that some great people want to serve, but with this going on behind the scenes, I don't know how encouraging that is. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for your comments. Maeve Noth, is it? I'm sorry. And Bill Coford, over there. I'm sorry. Maeve?
Yes, good evening. So I too, with I guess everyone else, read the Code of Conduct in the last month or so. And item 6A in the Code of Conduct and Ethics Policy says, quote, as the presiding officer of the City Council, the mayor is responsible for establishing a professional and respectful working relationship with the council and the public through cooperation and collaboration. This includes an obligation to listen and consider issues, questions, and concerns of the public. And I recognize that neither the mayor nor any other council member has to agree with me on issues, but the Code of Ethics does require that he or she be professional, respectful, cooperative, and collaborative. And so I hope as you consider nominating one of yourselves that you would think about the ability this person has shown to work with the public through cooperation and collaboration. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Bill Coford, followed by Betsy Coford. Hope I said that right. I'm not sure if I did. Coford, I'm sorry.
Good evening. I just sit here listening to this, and I feel like going out and puking, and I hope some of you do too. I haven't seen all this behavior, but just listening to this is sickening. So anyway, I haven't been here since Measure V, and I guess we all remember Measure V, huh? And now I find it necessary to be here tonight because I understand there's a changing of the mayor tonight, and I've heard and read some of the things that are out there on the web about, well, let's see, it's Matt's turn, but we're not going to give it to him. We're going to do something else, and we've got all these plans. And I just want you to know that I've been a resident here for 41 years. I have never, ever felt anything but pride for this city. And right now, I have no pride based on the stuff that I'm seeing. If anything here other than Matt being elected mayor happens, I guarantee you'll see my face a lot. And that's all I can really say. I just really think that you need to remember Measure V.
Thanks for your comments. Betsy Coford, followed by Robert Hendricks.
Mayor Grisilli, council members, and members of our community. It's come to our attention that through our parliamentary process, we have again pitted neighbor against neighbor and friend against friend on this sporting goods store issue. I know that feelings run high on many topics, and that's one of the great things about our city. Through thick and thin, Matt Grocott has served our city and been the voice of reason, in my opinion, for many controversial topics. What would our country and our town be like if we didn't have differing points of view on to present the other side? Matt is often that voice. I understand that there is a mounting campaign to censure Matt and stop him from being duly elected as our next mayor. That would be a huge mistake. Differing points of view allow thought to take place, and hopefully better decisions will be made. My husband and I worked through Measure V with the help of many brave residents, stopped the city from indebting us all for more than $86 million. 2/3 of this city's votes spoke out and made sure that we were not subjected to this horrendous indebtedness. It was the voice of the residents, to be sure. Now we have another controversial topic, a sporting goods shop that happens to sell guns. And passions run high on this topic. You must admit our city does have passion. Leadership is vital necessity for this city of good living. Not one of you is better able than Matt Grocott to lead our city this next year. It has come to our attention that a smear campaign has been launched to diminish Mr. Grocott's capacity to serve our city. Passions do run high with important issues, even to the height of having two council members high-five each other after a vote was taken at a contentious council meeting. We ask that the council and our current mayor to continue with the prescribed ladder of service and place Matt Grocott in his proper spot to serve the city of San Carlos as its mayor in 2018.
Thank you for your comments. Robert Hendricks, followed by William Mecham, sorry.
Hello, good evening, Council. I have just a brief comment regarding the moratorium on Turner Sports that's come up over the last month or so. I simply want to request that the Council, as well as the city staff, when they look into how they're going to address this in the near future, focus on and clearly state the problem before the Council starts acting on potential solutions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. William Mecham, I'm sorry if I misspelled or missaid that.
You did good.
Thanks. Followed by Glenn Gelano.
I just want to address the City Council on this issue with this Tanner Sports Shop and Matt. I watched it today on video, you guys, and I have to say, Matt was the only one that spoke to the crowd and said, you guys are out of hand. I didn't see one other city council member say a thing to the people in the crowd. And yet, he seems to get chastised for what he said. I don't think that's fair to Matt. I don't think it's fair to the public. I think it's all protocol for you all to speak up and say something and not show partisanship towards one way or another on this issue. You're supposed, but that obviously wasn't what took place in the vision that I saw from you folks. The other thing is, I think this whole issue with the Tanner Group, it points to some problem with the communication with the city and the application effects and what happens. The group doesn't go ahead and lease a property and put $125,000 into it to find out that, oh, no, we can't do it. It seems to me that there was some miscommunication with that group. And you know what? If I was that group, I would turn around and sue the city. You guys have to know what is going on, and for you not to know that there was an organization like this coming in, if it was a weed factory, you would know about it, I'm sure. You would have firsthand knowledge of it. Well, this is guns and whatever you want to put it as. I think it was totally wrong the way this thing was handled. I think Matt was right. And I think these people have been ostracized by the public and by the city council, and by your actions. You showed that on the film when I watched it today. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Glenn Gelano.
Good evening, members of the council. I'd like to formally add myself to the complainants regarding the ethics violations of Mr. Olbert and Mr. Collins. I attended both of the Turner's meetings. I agree with the previous speaker that the city was well aware of it. The Economic Development Department had meetings with Turner's. You were fully aware of it. And I think also that the emails that have been released recently show that there was politicking on the issue prior to your decision being made. I believe that the council should stay its moratorium, and the council should wait until the review is done, the review process of the ethics violations, and anybody that's found to have acted unethically have to recuse themselves from the issue. I strongly urge that the council tonight not make any decision on moving on with the mayor. I suggest Mr. Grisilli keeps that position until the ethics investigations are completed. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on items not on the posted agenda? Do we have a couple more? Okay. Okay. I have Alan Gates, and followed by Catherine Bez. I'm sorry, I can't read the last name, but welcome.
Members of the council, throughout our debate over the important matter of the regulation of gun stores in San Carlos and the moratorium put in place and extended in the last meeting, I've tried my best to stick to sharing my concerns and thoughts in making our city safer. When I used social media to raise support, I received veiled threats, including the desire for my house to be attacked by a home invasion where I wouldn't have a gun, including a request to meet me at 12 a.m. at my church unarmed. November 13th, Councilmember Grocott used his final thoughts after public comment to particularly call out some priest continuing to raise a point of argument, his mistaken belief that our church had, without necessary permits, posted signs of a welcoming message. While I was surprised by these erroneous comments, by our calculation and understanding the sign of a non-commercial nature under 100 square feet was of an exempt category. November 27th. Though I made no comment about the remarks of the previous meeting, again Matt Grocott used his time to again refer to some priest who brings his congregation to debate this issue. At that meeting, to the best of my knowledge, there was exactly one member of the congregation in attendance. And now a complaint has been filed listing an email communication between Councilmember Olbert and myself in which it is either presumed to be inappropriate or a breach of confidence, even though it is clearly a public record, in which Councilmember Olbert mildly responded to an email from a Southern California resident who wrote in the brief email, not to sugarcoat it, I quote, "Not to sugarcoat it, you morons have to be among the most un-American SOBs in the country. Don't you get it? The only people you are hurting are the one that will save your asses in an emergency." Now, we need to carefully consider the difference between what we don't like and what is inappropriate. Hold each other accountable and get to the work of this wonderful city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Reverend. Catherine, and I apologize, I can't read your last name, so I'm not going to try. Followed by Joe Sampleman.
Over the past week, the residents of Woodland Avenue, Howard Park, and the larger San Carlos community have experienced an increased awareness of Les Mundell Grove, or as it is popularly called, the Grove, after a 15-year-old boy was robbed at gunpoint, allegedly by 7 to 8 other 15-year-olds.
Could you move the mic a little closer? Then we'll make sure we get it. Thank you.
At 7 p.m. in the Grove last weekend. The Grove is located at Burden Park, directly behind the San Carlos Youth Center that functions as a class space for newborn to preschoolers in the mornings and then transitions to be a youth center for young people, predominantly middle schoolers who have nowhere else to go after school. The Grove has a problem, and not a new one. The police and neighbors have told me they are aware of the issue in the Grove and have been for years. But I think today, in 2017, we can choose a new path for the Grove, a path that is safer for young people and for our community. Over the past few years, I have resided in the area. I have seen adults and children selling and using drugs in the park and cars parked nearby. I have seen adult drug dealers counting a duffel bag full of cash behind the baseball diamond in broad daylight. I've had my car broken into on several occasions. I'm woken up by loud teens and even fireworks. I have called the police on all above-mentioned occasions, but the problem persists. And right behind our youth center, where many working parents and their children try to make a safe choice by seeking refuge after school, just to end up unsafe. The problem has also extended to be a traffic problem, with the influx of teens, particularly on the weekend, to the Grove. Drug sales and use have made speeding, unpredictable U-turns, and erratic driving concerns for the neighbors. Some solutions some neighbors have suggested are better lighting, video cameras, and a neighborhood watch. Hopefully, together as a community, we can find a solution to the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Malby, would we pass, obviously, I'm sure Greg, our police chief knows about a lot of this, but if we'd pass on this information and maybe have him come back and talk to us about it, that would be great.
Absolutely. We'll agendize that for a future meeting.
Thank you. Joe Sampleman, followed by Mary Farrell.
Oh, there we go. My name is Joe Stampleman, St. Carlos resident. I just wanted to carry over the overwhelming sense from the earlier meetings in November. I've never been prouder of St. Carlos about the way the community has responded to the situation. I thought there were bits of passion on both sides that maybe weren't strictly perfect, but I thought that Mr. Olbert and Mr. Collins' comments, though prepared, were no less thoughtful than, and I personally agreed more with their comments than some of the other comments, but I think it's frankly absurd for anyone to talk about ethical violations. I didn't agree with much of what Mr. Grocott said, but I think his right to say those things was there. And I just think it's absurd to get petty about that. I think people should focus on the facts and the things that were true that were said and some of the things that were intellectually dishonest that were said, and not to waste your time with ethical stuff. I think that's hiding.
All right, thank you for your comments. Mary Farrell?
Mine is very short. During these controversial discussions, I have noticed that some people aren't doing their jobs. And specifically, what I mean by that is that all of your jobs, as our civil servant, is to bring people together. And so far, I've just seen evidence of how this council is dividing them. And I please ask you to be the leaders we elected you to be.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on items not on the posted agenda? I'm sorry, yeah, fine. You can just hand the form to the city clerk, if you would, or the city manager.
Yeah, I'm not going to say my name because I don't feel safe, actually, to say my name. And but I attended the last council meeting and brought my children, my wife, because it was an important issue. And I was wholly impressed by the fact that the public raised their voice, spoke eloquently, clearly, calmly, with conviction, as did a number of the city council members. But at the end, I was embarrassed to be castigated and chastised and lectured to, and I felt patronized. And it's not a sporting goods store we're talking about, it's a gun store. So, and the NRA is not an educational organization, okay? I'm just, I need someone who's going to represent me and listen to the citizens of this city, and I've never felt less safe than with the prospect of a gun store coming into the city. If I want to maintain the major asset I have is a house. I want to maintain the value of that house. It's not going to increase the value of my house by having a gun store in this town. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on. Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are usually done in one motion. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent calendar, items A and B.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on any of the items? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Obert?
Yes.
And Mayor Grisilli?
Yes. Okay, item 7, reorganization. First item is Mayor Grisilli to call for nominations for new mayor. But before we do that, I'm going to ask if anyone on the council wants to make any comments. I see one light. Mr. Grocott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back when we were discussing the state law that was requiring us to look at, to look at even year elections. I went in and met with Jeff to see what our options were, and the reason I wanted to find out is mostly because at that point in my long 16-year career here on the council, I was seeing the barn door, as they say, already. And so I said to Jeff, what options do we have where maybe we don't have to extend the terms of the existing council members? And he gave me what those options were. Those are the ones I liked. If anybody looks back at the record, they'll see I voted against giving myself or anybody else another year on the council. And I had a very frank discussion with Jeff and said, gosh, I guess that means if we do extend a year, the normal course of events would be for vice mayor to move up to mayor and so forth. And I was telling him, I said, I'm not sure I want that either, because I've got a 15-year-old son at home, and anybody that's raised a teenager knows it's not the easiest part of life. And also, I've talked to so many parents who especially look at those particular years and say to themselves one of two things. I'm so glad I, didn't take this job or something because it allowed me to be with my children in their teenage years particularly, and look at them now, they're married, they're successful adults, and I did the right thing. And then I've talked to parents who've said, gosh, it's too bad I took that job that made me travel so much, and I was out of town so much when my kids were in their high school years, and now they're off to college, they're married, and I wish I hadn't done that. And so I look at what I'm doing and where I am with life. And I know I did this once before when I went through cancer, and, you guys made the nomination for mayor or offered it to me, and I turned it down because I just finished my cancer treatment. And I guess where I'm coming around on this is the same thing. I didn't ask for an extra year, and certainly didn't think I was going to, before that happened, have the opportunity to serve as mayor again. And so where I am is not really wanting that to happen. And something, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Jeff knows, because I've had conversations with him like I started out saying. But today I was listening to some music in my office, and there's a fella who also had cancer, and he was a country music artist who I like to listen to, Kevin Sharp. And there's a song that he made popular called Measure of a Man. And it starts out, says, I may never buy me a big house, own a Cadillac, cruising with the top down. That ain't the way I am. And then it goes on and it says, it ain't how far you go, it ain't how much you make. Son, it's what you give, not what you take. It's being strong and true to those counting on you. It's lending a hand, making a stand. That's the measure of a man. And then in the second stanza, he says, if I'm a few rungs short of the top of the ladder, when I meet my maker, what will it matter? That ain't the measure of a man. And I'm looking at my life right now. Measure of a man is being a good father, raising my teenage son, being a good husband, doing good in business and so forth. But seriously, people, I don't look at being on council, and particularly being mayor, as something that I identify with so much. So where I am in life, I would appreciate it if you would excuse me from the chore of the position. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Rubens, I can't remember. Should public comment now or after the item?
I think it'd be appropriate either way, but what we discussed earlier today was that you would do it after the nominations.
After nomination, okay. So item A, call for nominations for new mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to actually, considering the fact, like I said in my comments, we're kind of serving a leap year because of what the state did to us. and I would be happy to nominate you to extend for another year as mayor.
All right. Other nominations? Okay.
You need a second?
Don't need a second. And none on this. So, Mr. Rubens, do we have a vote on this then?
Yeah, the protocol is to have a vote after the nominations are closed.
All right. So if I hear no other nominations, then I'll close the nomination. Mr. Malpe?
I don't want to interrupt this part. I was preparing for when you were
Preparing
done.
for what I was done? Okay. So I'll close the nominations then, and I guess...
Well, I think you were indicating you might ask for comment at this point.
That's what I was sorry. This is like A, B, C, and D here, so this is stuff...
I'll take back my nomination.
Okay. You can do that. All right. We don't go through this very often, but we are tonight. So we have some comments. Folks want to make some comments. We have some cards here. The first one is Vesna Obravdovic, followed by Lorraine Lederer. And 2 minutes also covers here. Thank you.
I'm going to speak anyway.
Yes, please. So you have 2 minutes. Go for it.
Honorable Mr. Mayor and City Councilman, thank you for letting me speak. I'm really here to support Mr. Matt Grocott as our next mayor. I'm sad to hear about your decision. I speak for many who have been in the city for decades. We have seen Matt on the right side of many issues over the years. He's one of the most honest people I know, approachable and ready to engage. He's a person that has contributed and will continue to contribute to all of us. If this council were to listen to Mr. Grocott a couple of years ago, the city would have saved $500,000 on Measure V. And how quickly do we forget, or do we? After long-lasting divisions in our city, it is time to do productive work. Not all of you have to have identical opinions on issues, but it is up to you to maintain order when you don't have the same opinion. I saw videos from 2 recent council meetings when Councilman Grocott was confronted with snide remarks while he was speaking. It is your duty to control the visible and audible reactions from the audience, right? And then the same applies to your fellow councilmen as well. I would ask you to follow the basic rules of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Lorraine Lederer, followed by Bruce Knopf. Sorry. Okay. Bruce, followed by Charles Stone.
So I guess Matt reminded me, I suppose it was 16 years ago I supported Matt when he first ran for city council, which reminds me how long I've lived here. And since then, I got to say, I've certainly disagreed with Matt on various things and agreed with him on others. And honestly, Mark Olbert, same thing. School board, I think maybe I was on the governance council at Charter. Disagreed with you on a fair number of things. So I'm not really up here to talk about who I agree or disagree with, but we all know these are really tough political times. There's a lot of tension, and I just encourage you. There's one nomination, but when you vote, really vote to make sure that you're electing an individual who really can demonstrate the respect, the restraint, and the thoughtfulness that we really need in response to the many points of view the public has. It's not about who I agree with or disagree with, nor the people in this room who you disagree with or agree with, but it's really this, like really setting a high bar for respectfulness. So when you vote, apparently for Mr. Grisilli tonight, please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Charles Stone, followed by Robert Hendricks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Charles Stone. I'm currently serving as the mayor of Belmont. I'm here simply to say thank you to Bob for his service to his community. I've had the pleasure of working with Bob on several boards and watching him chair meetings on several boards, and it's always a pleasure to see how you run a meeting, how respectful you are, and yet you keep everyone in line in a very respectful way. I also want folks to be aware of all the time you spend outside of this room in the community and the broader county community, because it really is meaningful. meaningful, and the sacrifices you make to do it often are probably overlooked. So thank you for your service as mayor. I was also here to congratulate the new mayor, but that's super easy now, so preemptively congratulations on your new mayorship as well.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, Robert Hendricks, followed by William Meacham.
Hello, Council. I originally came down tonight to express my support for Matt, for the new mayor of San Carlos. However, given his comments, I simply wanted to state from what I've seen the past couple of council meetings, I'm certainly willing to support Mayor Grisilli moving forward as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. William Meacham, followed by Kareth. Is it Lizzie or Uzi? I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I came down tonight also to speak for Matt and what he's done for the community and his progression to the mayorship, if that was what was to be. Obviously, that's not what it was to be, and graciously, as he did last time, he stepped aside because of his illness, and obviously that was a bold thing to do, and tonight maybe he's doing a bold thing also. And you know, this is a family city, and he's thinking of his family's welfare and not the ego or the pride part of being on this council. And I think that's been exhibited in many ways, and I commend him for that. And if that's his wish not to go onward to be the mayor at this point in time, I think that's a wise decision. We live and die by our decisions sometimes, and maybe sometimes we make wrong decisions, and sometimes they're right. Everybody has to do what they feel is correct, and I think in light of what he has said, I think it's a wise decision for him, because God, family, and then the job comes last.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Kareth?
I'm a resident of San Carlos, and I just wanted to say thank you for your service. I wasn't here last month, but I watched it all on video, and I included my kids in that discussion. And it's just such a personal and emotional topic, as demonstrated by the amount of people that came out. And I was proud, actually, to have a place here and to have a discussion. I heard it brought up that this was something that had been maybe on the agenda before and then not put on the agenda, but I'm glad it's on. And I think there are a lot of topics in the country that are being talked about that need to, whether that's difficult or not. And it has given me a little bit of hope, where what I can't do maybe on a national, federal level, I can get more engaged in my city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Bill Shepler.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I did come here to talk about Councilmember Grocott and to speak to encourage you not to nominate him. So I applaud your decision to step down, because I do think it's unifying for the city in general. I've been a resident here for about 25 years, but I really just got involved with the gun moratorium, and I'm happy that I did. I think I've heard from most of the council members in personal email, graciously in providing support for my positions and losses that I've had due to gun violence. And the thing that I've really appreciated was Mayor Grisilli, the way that you've conducted yourself, and I will be happy to attend more meetings and become more involved, and to watch you conduct this council and see how the council and the city evolves. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, so we have a nomination, and they're closed. So I guess we need roll call.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Obert?
Yes.
Mayor Grisilli?
Yes. Okay.
I detected some issues in that.
7B is the new mayor, or the old mayor, to call for nominations for vice mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to nominate Cameron Johnson for Vice Mayor.
That's one. Anyone else? All right. If there are no other nominations, I'll close the nominations for Vice Mayor, and I guess go to Crystal for... is there a public... You're right. I should say that. I'm sorry. Forgetting this. Is there any public comment on that? 7B. All right. Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Grocott?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Obert?
Yes.
And Mayor Grisilli?
Yes. All right. So we have a new mayor and a new vice mayor. 7C is comments by the incoming mayor, and I quite honestly did not prepare anything. But never.
About your golf game or something.
Yeah, oh God, that would be sad. That would be very sad. I'm honored that my fellow colleagues, council members, feel that I can do this for a second time. This is very unusual. I'm not sure that, well, at least in my time, that it's happened for. Probably happened way back when. I'm sure they probably did it, but before our time. Other cities do it. I like the way we rotate, but we'll step in and I'll do the best I can, as the man said. I've lived here for 34 years. I was on Planning Commission for 6, and this is my 13th or 12th year. Next year will be my 13th year on council. I've always tried to listen to all sides of the issues, and I've always tried to make the right decision. As the gentleman said earlier, sometimes it's a decision people agree with, sometimes it's a decision people do not agree with. But I stand by them, and I'll always own the decisions that I make. I'm looking forward to working with my fellow council members this year. It's going to be a little bit hectic the first couple of meetings in January and February, but we will get through that, and we'll continue to go on a forward path for this city. We have, I believe, good leadership in Mr. Malpe and his staff, and I think we are blessed to have all of them, and we will continue to, as I said, to move ahead and do what we think are the best things for all the citizens of San Carlos. And that's all I have. Thank you. So now it's comments by council members. So, Mr. Olbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, or once and future mayor. Bob, I just wanted to say that I look forward to you doing another year here. I think you did a great job this past year. I know I've complimented you before on the way you managed the couple of relatively fraught meetings that we had on the gun store moratorium. I also want to specifically say, just sort of a little bit prompted by some of the comments that I heard here tonight, it is one of the responsibilities of the mayor to the extent it's possible to do so, to manage the crowd and the crowd reactions. And personally, I think you did a great job on that too. It's anybody who hasn't done it may not appreciate how difficult it is to try and stop or subdue 50 or 60 people who feel they need to make some utterance. And I thought Bob was very, very clear about what the rules of the road were, and he stepped in appropriately and firmly when he needed to. So I applaud you for your diligence and your skill on that level of things as well.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I also want to thank everybody who came and spoke the last couple meetings about the gun store moratorium, both pro and con. We are all one in this town. We all identify with the name San Carlos. We all moved here for a reason. And sometimes we disagree, and sometimes those disagreements get a little heated. And sometimes it's not easy to sit up and be criticized, but, you know, that's what I signed on for. So, you know, it comes with the territory. But I want to say, sort of echo Mark's comments, that I think Bob was, you know, I don't know, it was just sort of fate that it so happened that Bob ended up mayor this year when we had this issue. And quite frankly, nobody saw it coming. And the way Bob handled it was superb, and Bob, I congratulate you for that. And truth be told, I was kind of quietly, secretly hoping that you might stay on another year. So congratulations, and I think people need to know that we're not as divided as people think we are. Sometimes they take snippets of meetings. We meet 22 times a year. 90% of the time we agree on a lot of issues. Sometimes there are issues that are hot-button issues that people disagree on, and those are the ones that people focus on. But, I'm speaking only for myself. I genuinely like everyone on the council. I think we have a terrific city staff. This town is really lucky to have the city manager it has. I said, have the city attorney, director of planning, administrative services, public works. I'm very sorry to see Jay retire, move on, but I'm very envious since my turn's coming up in a couple of years. But I'll just conclude with saying that it is a joy to serve on the council. I very much respect everything that everybody has to say, and I'm sure that we're going to have a great year next year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson?
So I'm happy to see Bob take another year as mayor. I think the city's in very, very good hands with him in the lead. He's been a model to me. I think he's a model to a lot of council members, as Charles Stone said, throughout the county. Some people may know Bob joined the Waste Management Board, and they nominated him as the chair on the very first meeting because he had such a reputation for running effective meetings and getting people out on time. I've always seen you conduct yourself with absolute fairness and respect for everyone in the community. So I'm really looking forward to serving with you another year. I do want to express some appreciation for Matt. I think most of what we do in the city of San Carlos are nonpartisan issues. We try to deliver services as best we can to the people who live here, and I think we all feel very lucky to live in such a beautiful city at this moment in time. But we do have disagreements, and it's really just a question of how we as a community and how we as a council move on from those disagreements. They're inevitable that there are going to be disagreements. And I think that's true at every level of government, especially at the federal level these days, where it seems that sometimes we just can't move on from our disagreements. We can't come back to be together as a community and focus really on the main issue that we mostly agree on most of the things to try to move our community forward. And, Matt, I take you at your word, and I appreciate you talking about what your priorities are in life, but I do think that you've handled tonight in a very respectful way, in a way that helps bring our community together, and I for one, am very appreciative of that. I also did not expect to be nominated as vice mayor tonight, but I am very honored to serve and will continue to do the best job I can on behalf of the city.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Quickly, I don't want to say a whole lot because I was actually thinking about tonight, do I want to say very much beyond what I've already said? And I thought, no, next year I'll be stepping off the council, and I'll have a lot to say then because it's been a long haul, and there's just things, going around in my mind that I would like to say at that time. But tonight, I think it's, suffice to say, I'm thankful that you agreed to take on another year. Not everybody would want to do that. I know, Cameron, when you got done with being mayor, you insinuated to me one time, you were ready to have it end. Your wife was ready to have it end. So I think, stepping up to be vice mayor is commendable. To you as well. I also want to just thank, I see a lot of neighbors and faces in the crowd of people I know really well, people that I know pray for me, and I appreciate them being here. I appreciate my wife coming in, and my two sons being here, and it's just nice to have their moral support at this meeting. But I can tell you, right before I came here, I was on the wrestling mat at Sequoia High School, where my son is on the Sequoia Carlmont wrestling team, and had to, quickly run home, take a shower and everything, and get here. And it's that kind of thing that reinforces, I I don't need too much in my life right now that would take me away from my responsibilities of my family. So I appreciate everybody's understanding that. Thank you.
Okay. One last thing, and I should have said it when I was speaking, is I also respect your decision, and I think it's a decision that brings people together, not divides them, and I appreciate that. I really personally do. So, all right, I think that's it. So, meeting adjourned.